Hi, it's Vicky here and welcome to another art journal video. Here's what I'll be making today, so let's get started. As you can see, the one side of my journal has become quite bulky, so I'm using this acrylic block at the other side of my journal to keep things flat. And I'm starting out by covering both pages with Tim Holtz tissue wrap. This is my favorite way to start my art journal layouts as it provides instantly an interesting background. I'm using gel medium at the back to stick the tissue paper on top of my pages, and once everything was dry, I used my scissors to cut out whatever was sticking out of the page. Now I'm using gesso to cover up my pages. I'm making sure to dip my brush into water now and then so my gesso is thinner. The idea here isn't to cover the text, but to push it more on the background. I can never wait for things to dry out, so I always use my heat gun and make sure everything is dry quickly so I can proceed to the next step. And while I'm doing that, just to let you know that all the supplies are listed below the video on YouTube as well as on my blog. I'm using some scrap paper to protect my other projects, and I'll go ahead and use distress paints. I've chosen Wild Honey and Rusty Hinge, and having a color swatch is really helpful. You can download these color swatch from the Tim Holtz website. And now I'll go ahead and use the distress paints on top of my layout. Distress paints are great to use. They react with water. As you can see, I can apply them with the dabber or use a wet baby wipe. And once they dry, they are permanent. Distress paints are one of my favorite products to use on my art journals. They are so easy to use and with great results, and I love that they become permanent once they dry. I have the whole collection. You can never have enough distress paints, I think. This is the burlap stencil from the new Tim Holtz collection of stencils. I'm using a finger dabber to apply distress paint. I find that I can mess things up if I apply it directly with the bottle, so just to be safe and get the result I want, I prefer doing it this way. I feel I have more control on the paint. The stencil adds a great texture and makes my background more interesting. I'll be using Manila cardstock by Ranger to create some cutouts. I'll be cutting out this Sizzix film strip die using my cuddle bag. Use one A plate and two B plates, and the die cuts out perfectly without a problem. And although I don't have larger plates, I can still cut out this without any problems. So if you have another die cutting machine, you can still get the Sizzix dies if you like them. You just have to find out the perfect sandwich for them. I'll just use my tool there and poke out all those little bits and pieces. And now I'll go ahead and cut out another die by Sizzix, and that's a big one. But you can see I can still cut it out without any problems. To cut out this die, I used 2 B plates, and that was all. This is the vintage camera die, and I'm using a ball there to put inside all the little bits and pieces because I tend to lose them, and you can see they are very small. So I'll go ahead now and cut out this film strip in half because I'm planning to use it as a border on my layout. This will help frame my art journal pages. So now I'll be using black distress paint and color both the two film strips and my camera. To color some of the camera pieces, I decided to use a distress paint. This is brushed pewter and it's one of the metallics. But as you can see, I didn't like how this looks on Manila. I really needed something darker, so I'll just wipe it out with a baby wipe. And I'll go ahead and color all the pieces black first and then apply my brushed pewter. You'll see the effect is going to be great and more distressed. I'll show you how it looks directly on Manila cardstock, and now look how it looks on top of black distress paint. I'm not being neat while coloring the pieces because I want black to show through. And now it's time to stick all my die cuts on my layout. I'm using gel medium to stick them down. I'll be using these two pattern papers, which actually have a distressed look on top, and I'll be cutting out some pieces. I believe the pieces are 2 by 2.5, and the idea here is to create some Polaroids. Once all my pieces are cut out, I'll be using my distress inks and my blending tool, and I'll go all over the edges to distress them a bit more. For the photos, I've used my Instagram feed to print out sneak peeks of my older art journal layouts. And this is a great idea on how you can reuse your own art. After everything is in place, it's now time to add some shading. This is a brown big brush marker by Faber-Castell. I'm using the marker to go all around the images and apply some ink. Before the ink dries, I still have a few seconds to smudge the ink with my fingers and create the shadows. I've kept these little pieces from the film strip and I'm going to use one of them as a template to cut out small pieces out of my Instagram photos. I will then use gel medium to stick them in place right inside the film strip. Now to embellish my layout, I'll be using this film strip ribbon by Tim Holtz, as well as two of the tickets that come from a booklet full of tickets, which is also by Tim Holtz. I'll go ahead and secure the film strips at the back of these tickets by using my mini stapler, and then I'll stick them on top of my page with liquid glue. This alphabet stamps is one of my favorite sets for my art journals. It's called Worn Text and it's from Tim Holtz collection. I'll be stamping the word memories using black archival ink. Just because the art journal is quite bulky, it's almost impossible to get a perfect impression, but this is not what I'm going for here. So if I see any imperfections on stamping, I can always use a black marker and fill in the gaps. This is a set of mini alphas, which is by Doodlebug. I think it's called a Simply Sweet Alphabet. And I'll go ahead and use a black archival ink and stamp the rest of my quote. I'm using gesso with water to create some splashes here and there, and if you feel that you have many splashes in one place, you still have time to wipe them out with a baby wipe, just like I'm doing here. I'll go ahead and use my white gel pen and create some lines on top of my letters there. This is a favorite technique that I do whenever I use these fonts. And finally, to add some more interest on my layout, I've used this set of dies, which is by Simon Says Stamp, and I just die cut a few stars. I'm going to stick them on top with gel medium again. And just to remind you that if you are looking for a list of supplies, you can find it just below the video on YouTube or on my blog. And that was the art journal project for today. I hope you had fun and got inspired. Thank you all for watching.